get pregnant. So I had to give that background so that you understand what's going on. So then obviously it gets on. Then obviously she got pregnant. Obviously phased out. Came back, but before she left, she put another woman in place of her to just temporarily cover her, which was to do with the young lady Lauren, who just saw in that particular clip. And so obviously Lauren, has got a journalistic background. She's part of the producing team on the Breakfast Club. And the situation arose that where just Hilarious came back and they did not phase out the other girl. In fact, the girl actually was in her space. What I mean by that, her segment that she would do. She used to do just a Hilarious segment where she would, do funny takes on certain popular culture aspects that were happening. And because they didn't phase her out, there were now four of them on the panel, but it felt like there was a bit of a kind of tension between Lauren and Jess. Okay. She does make a point that obviously Charlamagne told Jess to tell her if she wants to talk, then to keep quiet or whatever. So that's another aspect, another angle. The overall thing actually seems to be this beef between Lauren and Jess because Jess feels like she has been dealt a bad hand here in the sense of come back into work and realizing that someone else has taken her spot and she's almost having to fight for that airtime, and that she also was being reputation wise has been made the reputation wise has been spoken about in a particular way that has caused issues, right, for her personally. So I want to get you guys thoughts on this aspect because corporate is very interesting, and I think many of you guys have been in corporate, so you understand it. The corporate game is a very funny game, okay, because you can be here today and they phase you out tomorrow. They do you more dirty than they did Kang, Jonathan Majors. Okay, so I want to get your perspective on this, and what you thought about this. Glenn, talk to me. What's your thoughts on this aspect?
Yeah, on this, I think this situation is one, it should never be on social media. Where's the HR department, right? Well, again, like, why are you letting this? I know people driving to work, they want to hear this. Is almost like pro wrestling. Like, you gotta read: is this fake or is this reality? Right? Is this really real? So we know this is real, and so they letting this go through on the radio. But that's the chance you take. Sometimes when you out of sight, especially entertainment, when you out of sight and you out of mind, and if she took over your segment, and people don't turn the radio off on that segment, and they're looking at the numbers, and the numbers are going higher, you might have just gave somebody else your job. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because it works. Because something had to work right. Because they kept her when she came back. They kept her. They didn't like, okay, you know what? Go back to production. Go back to what you was doing before Jess is back, and let us roll out. And so now Jess feels some type of way because Shorty's still there. The airtime, the mic time, they got fans. For some shows it works. Some shows it don't work because some people like to hear themselves speak, right? They like to hear themselves speak. There's some stuff like Steve Harvey got like 4 or 5 different people on the show. Same does Ricky Smiley in the morning. So it's like it's the dynamic that you have and how can this work together. To me, it should never got this far, right? Somebody should have checked this when they felt it, when they smelt it in the air. People knew about it online. The next day, somebody should be calling the EP, the vice president, Charlamagne, DJ Envy, whoever got control, should be setting these two ladies down and say, you know what, this is how we're gonna work this out. Jess, you've been gone for a while. Lauren is here now, so that's how we work the segment. We can equal mic time. You're on for 4 hours a day. Mic can be passed around, right? So the different things we can do. The creativity has to come in to this piece, right? I work in radio a little bit, so you have to be creative on how you get everybody mic time. So you got to be creative, and their creativity could have been done. They could have had this discussion, and it shouldn't have, and just didn't have to show all the feelings. All right, I'm not telling not to show feelings, but this shouldn't have been on radio while people are driving to work in the morning. This should have been something that's dealt with in the back room, and how can we create this chaos and benefit from it? And you don't blame the girl you don't blame her for getting pregnant, but the chance you take when in corporate, out of sight is out of mind. Sometimes somebody in do the job better than you, so we got to go with the hot hand. Just my thoughts.
Go for it, Sean. I love the thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a duality to it because I love that we got to see it play out, but I wish, and maybe hopefully this will fuel other conversations and for them to get a little bit more clarity. But what started this all for people that may not know was Jess did an IG live So she did an IG live last night, and she went off, and aired all of her grievances. So obviously it's fresh news for them to, because everybody saw it overnight. So now it's like this is a hot topic to talk about on the Breakfast Club, that next morning. So it's like a duality to it, because it's like they have these interpersonal relationships, and they're also running a radio show, but a lot of the radio show and the Breakfast Club is based on their interconnected relationships. So we as the audience get to see all of that play out. Now, for my own reasons, I have kind of backed off of the Breakfast Club. I used to be an avid watcher every day, listening to it in the radio in the morning on my way to work, you name it, watching it on YouTube. I listened to it. But the last couple of years, I backed off. And for a lot of these reasons, because, I see the way Charlemagne navigates things. DJ Envy plays his own part, but Charlemagne knows how to put 10 on 2 to light a situation up, to try to play for the cameras. But when you're talking with people's real lives, and then you're trying to add levity in there when it's a serious moment, I think you don't actually help navigate things. And there was a couple of times when they were having the conversation, Lauren and Jess, he busy was trying to make a joke and stuff, and they had to just kind of like tell him to stop. And I think that is problematic, because as a more seasoned host, and I would say more senior, and him also having probably a little bit more power than somebody like a Jess or Lauren does, I think that he has a better responsibility. We talk about men in protection. He's always looking to wreak havoc. To me, he thinks chaos is funny. um and he likes to be serious when it's convenient, and then sometimes he wants to be the jokester, and make a joke to lighten the moment. But then behind the scenes, he's also doing some madness, like telling Jess to keep telling Lauren to shush, which is not right. She was over talking, and I can understand how that plays out being in our panels. Sometimes you have somebody that over talks, or that you want to get your point across, but it's so hard, you have a limited window. But telling somebody to shut up is never the answer either, right? But sometimes you have a finite window, and you need to say what you need to say. Jess is not, maybe she's not smooth enough to just be like, let me finish, I'm still talking, can I get a second? Shut up was definitely not good, and I think she should learn better language to navigate when you're in a group setting.
This is a interesting debacle that you see here with Breakfast Club, and I'll speak on a couple different lanes. I think that DJ Envy and Charlemagne, as an avid watcher, they understand that their numbers are dwindling. They understand that radio is becoming legacy, and they understand that they need viral moments, especially in the era of their competitors are moving quickly. You have streamers, you have Club Shay Shays, you got everything going on. And so Charlemagne, as he's done in years past, he always knows how to make a viral moment. And so being able to have that conversation, which as people who have worked in corporate, that would happen, that would take place with HR, the two parties, or even you would have a representative talk to each person and then come to some consensus. But to have it on air, he knew what he was doing. And like people were saying, he was gaslighting Jess. He was, and he's coming from a place of privilege, because he knows that he's the LeBron in this situation. He gets to say who stays and who goes, so he can be insensitive, he can make jokes, he can he in your face, but at the same time knows that he's not going anywhere, and he knows that I kind of have the leverage to push you and pull you, and you have to play in this game in order to keep your job. I also think that from the from Lauren and from Jess's position, this is a interesting caveat of what a lot of women are starting to face, which is a lot of competitiveness between themselves in terms of I'll say, like, I think with a lot of guys, we understand, like, naturally with sports, like sometimes you might lose your position, or you might get yelled at by a coach early on as a young kid, and you learn that every snap, every second that you're playing football, basketball, baseball, soccer, whatever it may be, could be your last. And if you get injured, somebody steps in and does just as good of a job as you might not be playing there anymore. We've seen it time and time again in sports. And so now you're starting to see that and I think as us guys, when we go into whether it be our careers, whether it be anything that we do, there's a sense of competitiveness that comes innately with us. And not saying that it's not with women, but I think that to the clip that it is now, I think a lot of women are starting to come into that, whether they're advancing more in their careers, they're starting to having to, whether it be layoffs, whether it be lobbying for positions in their jobs and their careers. I think that this is something that's going to start to arise a little bit more, and learning how to navigate that is going to be particularly interesting. And then my last caveat, I think that you're seeing the stark difference between Lauren and maybe her more polished approach, even with how she said she talked with the producer and they brought him into the office, and Jess was just like, let's go direct. Let me talk to you like I talk to anybody else. And that's not how you operate. Lauren does a really good job. I also think that Jess, for all intents and purposes, she has a hard time reading whenever they do the Jess with the mess stuff. She's constantly messing up and stuff like that, and people pick up on that. I picked up on it because I listened to it often, especially before she was pregnant. She had a hard time. She was stumbling over words, and Lauren is a little bit more is more professional. She's trained. She that's what she does. She has a journalism degree. Not saying that you have to have one to be qualified or anything of the such, but with Lauren, I think that she's a little bit more polished where Jess isn't. And now you're starting to see, I'm not saying you fake it till you make it, but you're also seeing somebody who, that age old fight between people who have the credentials to those who might be, Jess was she's a Facebook comedian, eventually turned that into a social media influencer, so on and so forth. And so you're starting to see when, the cream is rising to the top, and I think Lauren is doing that. Whereas Jess, I'm not saying that she can't adapt and elevate her skills, but she has to do some work. It's starting to get competitive, and you can't just go to Instagram and say that everybody is out to get you. No, you have to put in the work.
Yeah, I think this is quite interesting, right? Because I think this is where men and women's aspects come in very uniquely. So I think the higher ups, there can be a case of several different ideas, right? This could be a case of toxic male environment. This can be a case of what they're the fact that they want to keep women fighting each other again keeps the men in power. We can talk about that as well. I think also there's an aspect of the higher ups were like, yeah, Jess, you ain't gonna play us. Because if you tell and she said it on the first clip I played, I kind of missed it. She actually said she got pregnant on purpose. How do you get a contract and within the first few months you then get pregnant and then think you're going to play that game and think you're going to win? Like, so it almost looks like you're taking the piss. You know what I'm saying? I think for men, obviously, we can't get pregnant, so we don't have this aspect, right? So like, if you come into a job and I start paying Glenn, and it's, the equivalent would be like if Glenn just suddenly says, I'm sick. And Glenn ain't sick. but Glenn wants to take that sick pay and get paid while he's at home, right? Somebody will look at that and go, you're taking a piss, right? Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily what Jess 100% did, but I think that for the higher ups, again, it's the bottom line. You get what I'm saying too? Like, if I've just paid you and you've just got a new contract and then you get pregnant within a few months, it's not that women can't get pregnant, by the way, and I don't mind being challenged, but I want to make it very clear. It's not that you can't get thingy. It's that she just got the new contract. So there's a sense of power here where when I give you a contract, now you go and get pregnant. It's like, oh, okay. Okay. You want us to pay us while you in that space? Okay. We're gonna play some ball games. All right. Let's see what we can do. We're gonna find someone that can do your job. And that's the warfare. Do you know what I'm saying to you? I'm not saying it's right. I'm only stating what I think the higher ups were doing. You know what I'm saying to you? So for me personally, I'm just saying that that's what I felt like the higher ups were doing. They're like, if you want to play that game and you want to play a power game, all right, we just gave you a bumper contract and you wanted to go and get pregnant. We ain't about to play that game. We will get someone else and we will slowly phase you out. It's not fair, but that's part of the game. Yes, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, could that be something? Sure. I don't necessarily think that was the thing. Because if you heard her when they had their conversations together, she's the one that asked for Lauren because Lauren was part of the interview process when they were looking to replace Angela Yee. So and Lauren was one of the finalists. So when Jess knew she was going out for maternity leave, she asked for she asked for Lauren to come in and replace her. I think what the higher ups did was allow the messiness to take place by allowing the confusion of having both Lauren and Jess still in the same space when Jess came back from maternity leave. It was Lauren was supposed to exit stage left, but she stayed on. But the higher ups were not really specific about what her role was going to be. So she started over like kind of being in the Just with the Mess segment and kind of like chiming into that and doing a little bit of what she was doing while Jess was on maternity leave. So it just becomes a lot of confusion like, hey, you were supposed to go. You're still here. We always talked about you transitioning out once I came back. Now that you are here, which, hey, if that's the decision, now you're chiming in on my segments. Now you keep popping in on the things that I normally do. What's going on? And we have no clarity. And I think the higher ups were allowing that to play out, creating some tension because now that gets people watching on top of other people in the comments saying like, oh, we like Lauren, we want Lauren to stay, fueling this whole two black women against each other, when theoretically they kind of did two different things. Jess wasn't hired to be a news commentator. That's not her lane. That's not her specialty. That's never what she was there to do. Lauren brought a different, unique set of experience there. Also coming from TMZ, having a journalism and communications background, she brought a different flavor. So now it's like, how do we meld these two? And they did it sloppily. And because it's a public show, they allowed it to play out for fodder. So they never defined it when they could have, because they like that discord, they like that tension, black women at each other. And then Charlemagne, which made it like just the like nail in the coffin, was him playing into it like, oh, don't, that's the gaslighters. Oh, don't let it be about the comments. No, it's not about the comments. It's about what's happening every day in our real day workspace. And also, sir, you are perpetuating it as well because you're making comments about Jess, you're talking about Lauren, you keep making this thing a thing. And that's the part where I get on his neck, because you didn't learn from Angela Yee. You didn't learn how when you get messy, it blows things up. And they've never really fully been able to recover, my opinion, since Angela Yee left. They still haven't found their right space. And I think people who really were paying attention still don't 100% rock with them because of the way they did her.
But also too, the way they was doing, just hilarious when she said, I think she broke the news early that she was coming, and then they took it back, and then she broke the news again that she was coming. But one thing corporations do, there's been a lot of women who go on maternity leave that don't come back, and so I gotta have a plan B. Because again, you want to be home with your child, you want to be home with babies. I'm not saying either way. You're 12 weeks or whatever weeks, you 8 weeks are up, and you feel like, you know what, I want to stay home. So they had Plan B, and I agree with everything everybody else said. Lauren was good. Hey, sometimes you gotta be careful how you pick your successor, right, or pick the person to replace you. Yeah, and so she got good at what she did. She did her homework. Her stories and stuff that she did was great. Her perspectives were good, and people embraced it. So now, poor management, poor Charlemagne, poor DJ Envy, I blame, because and the producers of the show again just didn't figure out how to make it work with everybody. And I think Sean mentioned the transition was faulty. And Jess, I think she said on her Instagram, that wasn't the plan. They dropped the ball. And they dropped the ball without letting her know the plan. So when she came into work, she didn't expect to see Lauren or didn't expect that the interaction to be there. She expected what the plan was. So I blame Charlemagne. I blame DJ Envy. I blame those that are involved for dropping the ball on this young lady who made her feel some type of way coming off of pregnancy, coming back from pregnancy. So For ratings, for whatever case may be, management dropped the ball.
This might be a tale as old as time, but I just don't think that it's in corporate's best interest to care about their employees. Like I don't. Charlemagne and DJ Envy, they care about themselves and their own business endeavors. So I don't expect them to really care about Jess or anybody else, and I don't expect anybody from iHeartRadio to care about anybody else. Like to me, I see it as like we want to be really idealistic when it comes to corporate structure and corporate best practices, but they don't care about anybody. That's why you see people get laid off who've been working at the companies for all their lives. You see people, never take a day off and they get fired or they get put on a PIP for some unknown reason. And it happens all the time. I think that this is just more, I think that this also is an instance where I don't think Jess did the best what's in her best interest to make sure that she was bulletproof in this entire situation. Again, I don't care about the circumstance of her being pregnant. Even before then, she wasn't the most polished, and she wasn't, and I'm not saying like compared to Lauren, she just was unprepared when it comes to topics. She was unprepared when it came to her portion on the mic in the mic structure. When it came to her, it's like she didn't know what was going on. She like when they're a radio station, so that means you have to give critiques on music. Well, you could even see when Charlemagne or DJ Envy sped through an album so they can give a review. So when they talk to an artist, Jess didn't have that. She didn't listen. She even said she didn't listen to albums and stuff like that. So I'm saying, you have to do everything in your power. I'm under the guys that, hey, you should do everything in your power to be bulletproof so they have no reason to. If you do everything in your power and they end up doing some BS, then hey, there's probably some legal grounds for you to get things taken care of. But she's wasn't necessarily the best at the position, and I think that she could have been a little bit more polished, a little bit better at her position. And with Lauren, she's cheaper. She's probably cheaper. She's more consistent because she's also not doing other things, because Jess is also a stand-up comedian, so she's gone probably on Fridays, and from what I've seen, she's been gone on the Friday segments, traveling and whatnot. And she's a mom. Lauren just seems like a little bit more safer fit, and she's cheaper. So it's like a football team. If I have an old quarterback and they get injured, I can get this young quarterback for way cheaper who's playing really, really hot. Am I going to give the reins back to the old quarterback? No, I'm going to try to trade off the old quarterback, keep the new quarterback who's a lesser contract, and keep it pushing. But I don't want us to get caught into the semantics, even though it is a lot into it. But also they did pit Lauren and Jess kind of buried her own grave, because she could have honestly, I hate that. That was the thing that was a little bit more nefarious, was when they said Jess said that she could come back, or DJ Envy or somebody said that she could cut her off or let her go, or said she could leave, make her leave. And basically they basically, buried her in a way, because you, as a Black woman, as a Black person in general, you don't want to basically get rid of a fellow Black person's job, but effectively this is your replacement, so you can't do anything. Your hands are tied behind your back.
Yeah, listen, this situation is political, right? Because I think obviously as well, like from what I see in the comments wise, Lauren is well versed for this role. And I think Jess thought to herself, great, you know what? This is a great replacement for her, because she can take over for a little while. They're very different as well, right? Like Jess is all about the comedy and everything like that, right? And then you've got obviously Lauren, who's a bit more polished. And obviously as well, we've got Lauren also as part of we have to not forget that there's a power dynamic here. Lauren is also part of the producers, or at least she does the questioning for people that come as guests on the show. So she's already got some ties with people above, right? So it's quite interesting to kind of hear that perspective. So I think obviously, unfortunately, I don't know if they knew that Lauren was going to be such a hit. and forgetting that whilst we're doing a job, the bottom line is what matters. So like you are a battery in a power plant. Like and again, I always say this, like it's like you said, Easton, as well. It's like playing sports. The only way to become invulnerable to any degree, to some degree, is when you're really good. When you are really good, that they know they can't replace you, you find that people bend rules for you. When you're average, rules don't get bent. I keep saying this. When you're ugly, people put rules on you. When you're good looking, everybody breaks rules for you. When you're good at your job to a degree where they know they can't live without you, they bend rules for you. And I think when Lauren coming in, not only was she astute with a journalistic background, she's clear. She's clear. It seems as well when she speaks. It's for the audience, it seems like it's going over really, really well. You know what I'm saying to you? Let's not obviously, I don't want to ignore the fact that there is also a beauty component that plays into things as well, because we're talking about women compared to men. Men, we have to understand it was a man's world. I will always take that into consideration. Beauty is politics, and it can be played into the situation too, right? And so in that space, and I've seen a lot of comments as well, and I don't really watch Breakfast Club, but I've seen a lot of comments that Jess would come into to work, eating food, doing this, doing that, almost like you moving slacky. And if you move slacky when you're not the star player, you need to have points on the board. Like when you play, the team wins. When you don't play, the team loses. That's when you can do anything you want to do. You know what I'm saying? We all know when we're at corporate, we've worked in corporate and worked in the workplace, there are some of your employees that can do whatever they want. And when they do whatever they want, no one can tell them nothing. You know why? Because at the end of the day, they get the sales. There's a boss that we all hate, but will get the job done. You don't like her. I don't like her. You don't like him. We don't like him. But the fact of the matter is, the corporate side of things love him. Why? Because he gets the job done. And so the difficult aspect here is that it's bottom lining. And it seems like Lauren is helping the bottom line. There's views are coming in a way. And maybe she wasn't supposed to be that good. She wasn't supposed to be that good. And she is blowing it out the water. And again, bottom line is corporate are thinking to maybe they're thinking to themselves, can we pay for both? We said that the dynamic of the situation, we wanted 2 men, 1 woman. Having 2 women changes the dynamic, and it really does. Like for instance, we're having a dynamic right now, right? Amongst men here, it's a dynamic. You add a woman, it has to change. So, and so as soon as you add another second woman, it's going to change the dynamic. So sometimes there is that. That's why I said there's warfare that happens sometimes that you're not seeing. That can happen behind that. So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not saying that what they're doing is right. By the way, again, I do feel that like just coming out and doing this on social media first is very unprofessional, and it doesn't help your case. Um, and it doesn't actually bode well for you. Okay, so it doesn't bode well for you because you look like you're doing way too much. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't be talking about my colleagues if I still work there. Like that's kind of wild. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah. Um, some of the things that they do, there's two things I want to make a point about, but just while it's fresh in my mind, some of the things they do, we'll never know what's sanctioned and what's not, because they're historically known for doing things to drum up ratings, pulling things that start on social media but then play out on the radio. Just like when Jess, quote unquote, prematurely announced that she was going to get the Breakfast Club and then pulled it back like, oh, it was, and they were like, oh, it's not official, and then she wound up being, named the co-host. So I don't know if this was a ploy or not. I think a lot of times what they do is take a little bit of truth and then let some things play out on the radio. So whether she got the green light to do it, it's obvious that management knew that there was tension amongst the team, so they knew that. The other part that I want to say is, as much as certain things that Just Hilarious does is not my cup of tea, they had a chance to test all those people. Lauren was amongst the in the running when they were interviewing for that third spot. They had extensive amounts of time to test her. and allow her to sit in the seat and do the job, and she did just that. And they still chose Jess. So that they wanted Jess hilarious. So as much as there's parts of Jess that we don't like, we can't just dismiss the fact that she was picked amongst a lot of people that interviewed for that position and sat in that guest host spot for weeks. You know, some of them, and they brought people around for different rounds, and they decided to go with her for their own reasons. So I don't think it's necessarily that Lauren just did a whole big thing and now they want to get rid of her. I think they like the drama that it created. And I think they like the attention that the drama and watching these two women kind of go at it, what that drums up. And they want to manipulate and play with that. Now, what they do with Jess, who knows? Because you did say it. Yes, certain people can get away with things, but every dog has its day. And I've learned that and I've seen it so many times because the corporate machine will chew you up and spit you out. You're good today, but gone tomorrow. So anybody can be replaced. Anybody that sits around thinking that they're irreplaceable, watch how quickly you get replaced. So I just think that no one is safe. And I think they like to see people a little uneasy. And I think they like to see people, kind of on edge, and they like to see what that looks like. It's dangerous. They could, if it can be proven that they are manipulating that way, you can catch a lawsuit that way because there's workplace laws. I know we want to think like, corporate can do whatever they want to do. No, you just can't. There's workplace laws. So if you can prove it, you can prove that they're using things, they're creating a hostile work environment. There's lawsuits to be had.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying on that one. I think they wanted her because of her audience. I think Jay was saying I agree that I don't know if they actually wanted her. I think they wanted what she carried, and sometimes that's the name of the game. Sometimes they want you because you carry an audience, but they don't actually want you. It's like when they bring black people into a space, but don't actually want black people there. They want their audience. They want you as an influencer because you carry an audience. You're able to bring in a demographic to watch them, and they only need a percentage of your audience to stay once you're gone. And so I felt like I'm feeling like, with all the mess and the game that they did with Jess Hilarious, would they have done this to somebody else? Would they have played these same kind of games? Maybe somebody who has a more respectable reputation that they respected. Would they play these games? Probably not. They thought they can get away with it with Jess, right? And then now Jess has kind of fallen. And again, corporate is his own beast. There is a game you have to play with corporate. Corporate has a game you must adhere to and play. And I'm saying this because I spoke to my sister about this about last year. And I said, you are trying to complain and moan and go about it the wrong way. Let me teach you the corporate game. There's a corporate game. It's like playing snakes and ladders. You can't play Monopoly rules with snakes and ladders. You have to understand how snakes and ladders actually works. And so corporate know exactly what they're doing. They know when they're trying to phase somebody out. They know when, like you're saying, Sean, putting two people together and putting one piece of meat in the cage and seeing who's gonna kill each other. They know this game, right? So I definitely understand that aspect. I just think to myself that with Jess, for Jess, she fell into the trap because she got emotional and then went into a space where she then insulted her fellow colleagues. And it's like, hey, it may be Charlemagne that's doing it, but you got to be smarter than that. You going toe to toe on the internet doesn't bode well for you, for this thing, and for the next thing. You know what I'm saying to you? Listen, Jess will probably always survive. She's a person who has got a gift, and the gift will always find space and always make money for itself. I'm just saying, as a corporate space, this was not the way to go about it. You know what I mean? Like there was a whole meeting they had in the morning, right? In the morning they had a whole meeting, and you didn't mention it. So it's like, but you mention it on the internet for us to know. Why do we need to know? It's a workplace issue. Deal with it with your work colleagues. Now you're creating tension between you and your work colleagues. And in future, now you don't even know how they feel about you now. You know what I mean? I don't want to get cussed out in public. Now I might feel some way towards you. I ain't gonna say it though, but I now feel some way towards you. I mean, I don't know how you'd feel if one of your colleagues blasted you on the internet and they come into work tomorrow. You're gonna be looking at, all right, cool. All right, cool. You know what I mean? That's my angle, I think, in that space. Yes,
the more we talk about it, the more I think this is I'm gonna use the wrestling term. I think this will work. I think it's a shoot work. I think it's part reality and part fiction, and so they're doing a shoot work to get us and get fans and people to talk about it because they're geniuses. I mean, not geniuses, but you try to generate ratings, and there's always something, right? There's always something. So I think it's a little bit of a shoot and work together. Whereas reality, I'm going to throw in a little bit of fiction because again, you mentioned they come and have production meetings. You sure Jess doesn't seem like that morning when she came into this morning that wasn't the first thing on her mind. Like they didn't talk about this in production meeting. This conversation happened, and somebody was like, "Let's flip it. Let's make it a shoot work and see how we can generate 1 million views. How we can generate people talking about it. How can we generate this and turn this into cash for us?" So,
I also think that we know that the Breakfast Club and iHeartRadio, their ratings are in the dumpsters. Like if you see now, back in the day, you used to break your records on the Breakfast Club. You would go to Breakfast Club, Angie in the morning. Then if you go on the West Coast, you go to Big Boy in the morning. And now you don't need to do that. All the streamers, all the young guys, like you can go directly to them, and they're the people who are breaking the new artists. They're the people who are breaking the new movies. They're the people who are doing, who have a lot more pulse on the culture and have a lot more influence. And Charlemagne and all of them, they're still holding on strong, but it's not what they used to be. So there is a little bit of that, but I also think that, I mean, just to me, just doesn't seem like I think that they thought that the reach her fan base would help give them a boost in ratings, because they're also thinking that off the heels of losing Angela Yee, you had somebody at Angela who was a powerhouse, who had a pretty good history of doing some really amazing stuff on air, but now you're having to find somebody to fill in her shoes, and she knew how to. She used to be the butt of everybody's jokes, unfortunately, because I saw some pretty shicey things there on air, but she had her space and people respected her. Maybe Lauren wasn't the first pick, but now you're realizing that Jess isn't the attraction that you thought she was originally. And corporate, they're gonna look at how much they're spending, and I'm spending $1 million for you, but your base that I thought I was gonna get ain't coming over here like you said they were. Whereas I'm paying 10% with Lauren, and she's unproblematic, and she'll work more hours longer, and she comes in prepared. Corporate every single time gonna go with Lauren, and Jess just doesn't have the corporate chops yet to know how to fight back. It's like you got the common sense, you got the street hustle, but you don't know the corporate beast that's on the other side, and you can't fight that. And so I think that that's a little bit of the nuance between there.
So let's get some solutions on the table, because obviously all of us have been in corporate. So let's take this situation in hand. This happens to you. What's your game plan? Or let's say, for instance, Jess comes to you and says, "Well, you're saying, I've done this, that. What would be your game plan for handling a situation like this?" So let's say we're having a situation where it is before Jess even launches this video. Let's say she hasn't launched it. She's about to launch this video. She comes to you, asks you a question. Can I launch this video? What would be your game plan from here to for her to go forward in regards to dealing with this corporate, I like to call it espionage, that she has undertaken by seemingly her work colleagues? What would be your solutions on the table, Mandem? What would be our solutions? Who's got a game plan?
If she was a savage, she would have got rid of Lauren when she had the chance. But no, they posed a question to her and asked her, "Hey, do you want Lauren?" And she was like, "No." If she was thinking with her right brain, she would tell her no, because that the person who's taking my segment is in my spot. We can't have that because you're stepping on my toes. But since you're in this position, the PR side of me is saying, "Hey, y'all do a co-branded segment where Lauren provides you the information, the meat and potatoes, and I'll hit you with the comedy on the Jess with the mess." And so I think that that's an interesting way of pulling them both into these conversations, and then have it to where there's a mandatory amount of interviews that I'm in that she's not in, and vice versa, because the issue is they don't flow well when they're on air together. There's too many questions being asked. There's too many jokes. And it needs to be like tier A and tier B and tier C, because not everybody they have are tier A. I need to guarantee that I'm going to have 4 to 5 tier A interviews a week, and she's going to have that 2 or 3, just so everything is cool and copacetic. But that's what I would do.
Yeah, it's kind of on Eastern side too. We're planning out how can we make this productive for everybody, right? How can we make this run smoothly so that the audience gets what they want, who is that, which a little bit of drama, a little bit of entertainment, and we get what we want, which is the audience turning in the production of the show. And so again, I go back to the producers, man, and management, how to fix this. Your question was just comes to me. I'm telling Jess, let's have a conversation. Let's sit down. You've been in business. I'm in business. Let's make it work together so we can all eat, so we can make profitable. Because eventually somebody's going to leave. If I'm Jess, I want to leave on good terms. If I'm Lauren, who's trying to get her foot in a higher level, right? I'm not going to cause any waves, but we can still have a conversation about how to handle this. And for the two guys, Charlemagne and DJ Envy, let make it more productive. And Easton, your point about who gets the interviews and the point time is excellent, because you mix them both up. Let the journalistic approach with Lauren flourish, and if Jess is there just for comedy, let Jess be there for comedy. And anything that you have, or create a segment for Lauren that her work will flow. And that's where, again, production, sitting down, having a conversation, mapping things out. How can we add a new segment to the show? Let Jess do Just with a Mess, and let Lauren do something different, and keep it flowing that way. Or can you two work together and we do this thing together, and then you add levity to it? So
Yeah, the other thing I would add, because one of the things I've done in the past is strategy and implementation, is, they know what their budget is. So, having a level of open, transparent conversations around who's doing what and for how long. You know what I mean? And they know what their budget is to have Lauren and both just sitting there at the same time. They know when everybody's contracts are up. They know what the idea is in the short term or the long term. They need to be transparent about what's happening next, and then provide a plan, and then allow the production and everybody else under to be able to manage and work with the talent so that they can get it done. So it's like having a clear delineation of who's doing what. So if Lauren is still going to be in here because we see value in XYZ space, how long are we going to have that happening? Are we testing out Lauren for a potential, newer opportunity where we see, our market going? We know we're losing market share in this space, so we want to be able to pick it up in this. We've seen an uptick in the ratings here, and this is why. So they need to be transparent so the talent knows, instead of playing with the talent like chess pieces without having a level of transparency in the process and what's going on.
Love that idea. Sorry, I was clicking behind. I noticed my mic was still on. Yeah, no. For me personally, game plan wise, it depends. It depends what kind of individual you are. I'm a person that, listen, you ain't gonna force me out. So unfortunately, Lauren gonna take some fools, because it ain't gonna be me. So my thing is, I like to one up, man. One up them, upman showmanship. For me personally, I'll be telling Jess, start your media training right away. Get your ass in some media training. Get yourself acquainted with journalism. Start studying now, because everybody loves a good arc and a good story. Like, it's like when a villain becomes a hero, or when a hero becomes a villain. People like to see a good turnaround. Okay, if right now you are in the dumps, you're beaten, you're at the bottom. They think you're about to quit and do what you would normally do, which is survival instinct. Sometimes you just need to be a snake for the right amount of time, and be a viper waiting in the grass, and you need to wait for the right opportunity to strike. So for me personally, I'll be telling Jess, you have the legal power here because you have a contract. They can't just fire you. Okay, all right. And what I would start doing is I would start upscaling myself in skills. right, which are in alignment with this particular role. And then I am going to befriend Lauren because Lauren's about to become my mentor, and I'm going to overcome you. Yes, I'm going to take all your skills. I'm going to lap it up like, Lauren, how do you do this? I'm going to feign my ignorance and take everything you ever learned, and I'm going to twist it on you. Because you see what's happened. Lauren, whether I think she's cool and great at what is, she got offered an opportunity and she too played that game with you. So she could have said, okay, my time is up. Let me go back to where I came from. She didn't. Okay. So she doesn't care about you. You have to get it through your head. She doesn't care about you. It's business at the end of the day. And so for me, it's also business. You know what I'm saying to you? Smile. Who are you? You need to smile at who you need to smile at, and you need to be okay with who you need to be okay with, but always know the objective. I am trying to win at the very end. So if there is a Zex, I'll talk to the execs and I'll be like, hey, look, what's going on? I want to make sure what's our plan. Okay, let's sit down, let's work through the plan, we'll see what we can do. I love your plan there as well, Easton, about the shows, etc. etc. I'm playing ball because I need to get myself in the business is about relationships. I need to get myself acquainted with those people who are making decisions. You know what I'm saying too? And I don't mind temporarily acting like I'm all cool with everything that's going on because I'm waiting for the opportunity to strike. And when it does, yeah, I'm gonna hit you with something. Because in that time, if this is really a toxic environment and it's one that is detrimental to Jess, this is the time you should be building up your evidence, not talking on social media. So I would have told her, listen, my darling, don't even think about going on that social media. Keep quiet. This is now the time you start documenting everything that's happening. Document it, document it, document it, document it, document it, document it, because a lawsuit's coming, right? And when they don't want a lawsuit, they pay you. So which one do you want? You know what I'm saying to you? You have to play smart. It's corporate. So you can't play the game where you go out on social media and do the whistleblowing because people care for a second, but when they see you standing and getting hit, as Colin Kaepernick found out, you be on your knee by yourself and no one else cares. You can't care if you can't pay your bills because I ain't come to pay it for you. So in the end, you have to be self-preserving. So for me personally, it's smile who you need to smile at, befriend who you need to befriend Lauren definitely, still all her particular attributes, skills that she's got that's making her great, and add it to what you already have. You know what I'm saying to you? It's like remember Power Rangers with the different parts. I'm gonna take all these parts and put it together, make me this tall ass Zoid. And then when I'm ready to, I strike. And when I strike, Lauren doesn't see it coming. Sorry, Lauren. So either, you know what I mean? So I think this corporate strategy. Any last thoughts before we get out of here, boys? I think it was a really good conversation. You guys will definitely be helping future people in the future. Corporate strategy
I
always.
guess my last little point is I don't want us as Black people to take this moment to be like, well, this is us pitting Black people against Black people, Black women versus Black women. This is a really interesting moment where the real culprits, they are out of sight and out of mind. The iHeartRadio and the higher up execs are not in the picture at all, and so I don't want us to be blinded by that. As well as I don't want us to be like blame it on the man in this situation. I think that there's teachable moments from Jess because she could be sharper, she could be polishing up her tools, and I think you have to make yourself bulletproof, especially when you are in corporate because they're just looking to find your replacement at all times.
Sean, Glenn, any last thoughts?
And like you said, keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel and keep your resume ready. And that's what she has to do. Because if they're playing these games already, because she got your spot, they're looking for you to mess up. And they find it, and they're gonna try to find a loophole to get you out. Whether they just pay you off, but they don't want you, they don't want you. You know what I'm saying? They don't want you. Some companies are willing to pay you to go. And so just gotta keep her head on a swivel, like I said, and keep the resume ready.
And I would add to that, you know, as much as there is corporate gameplay, we all choose how we play the game. And I think each of us has a responsibility, whether it's Lauren, whether it's Charlemagne, whether it's Envy, whether it's Jess. Everybody plays a part. So you can choose to not play the game if you want to, and you can also choose to add fire to a flame, or you can choose to extinguish it. So I don't want to excuse anyone of their accountability in this. I think everybody is playing a role in this, And everybody needs to look at, what am I responsible for doing? What do I want my legacy to be? What do I stand for? What do I say in public but do in the private? Because I think those things, to me, integrity is important. What you stand for as a man is important. How you conduct yourself is important. And how you handle grievances, and that goes for Jess, right? If you got a grievance, there's a way to handle it. There's a proper way to handle that and to get it resolved. Whether that means leaving, or whether that means airing your grievances out if you feel that there's a path to a solution.
Yes, thank you very much, boys. I appreciate that. Good soft launch, as they would say. I think again, you all made some great points from different perspectives. I think it's important to have those wholesomeness of perspectives to kind of understand where to understand this particular subject. And if anybody out there, if you're in the corporate world, just know that it's a dog eat dog world sometimes. So just as Glenn would say, keep your head on that swivel. Come up with make sure you got a plan always ready. Keep the resume ready, because honestly, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're green, whether you're blue, the corporate game, it is a how to say, a very shrewd game. And it's not for the faint-hearted. If you've ever played Monopoly before and you've played with certain people, you know it is not for the faint-hearted. You will land on somebody's street and you'll be looking at them with begging eyes, and they still gonna take all your money, and then take your streets, and then take the houses on the streets. It doesn't matter who you are in corporate. All they care about is their bottom line. You know what I'm saying to you, and so just be aware of that as well. But anyway, listen, audience, thank you so much. Next week we'll be back with men's panel. We'll be talking about some other subjects, because I'm tired of Married at First Sight, man. Let it be dead, man. You know what I'm saying to you? Because I don't need to know where they're going to next. It's over for me. They've done a reunion. I think it's time to let it rest. But we'll have the men's panel next week. Maybe we'll do something. Maybe I'll do a pop the balloon version or something, or I don't know. We'll see what topics come up in the week coming up. So look forward to those. Tomorrow night we will be discussing Married at First Sight with the ladies as well. So we have the full panel ready to go tomorrow night, same time, and then we'll chop it up as well. Okay, but yes, audience members, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Stay locked, stay loaded. We're gonna see you guys tomorrow night, and yeah, be blessed. Let me get out of here, baby. Baby, you're my delight, and I know little black, you know what time.